Iron Supporting Food Banks collects food and cash donations for needy families in Newham Borough and beyond. Please consider making a donation via their Just Giving page, the link for which you will find in the description section of this stream. Come on, you Irons!
West Ham are massive, everywhere we go. West Ham are massive, everywhere we go. Everywhere we go. West Ham are massive, everywhere we go. West Ham are massive, everywhere we go. Everywhere we go.
I don't know what's going on here. Hang on. My phone's going a bit mental. Do excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Hang on. Let me get rid of that. That's a bit strange. Anyway, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the West Ham Massive. If you are new around here, please don't forget to hit subscribe and hit the bell notification. And please don't forget to click a thumbs up on the video. I just thought I'd put my 2 pence out there. There's been a lot of YouTube channels that have gone with this, and I mean TalkSport have gone quite early with it. That it's pretty much a done deal that Julen Lopetegui is, if he hasn't already had the trigger pulled on him, he's about to have the trigger pulled on him, and his time as West Ham manager is either at an end already or it's about to come to an end. I don't know which. As I say, there's a lot of rumour, speculation. As I say, looking here on TalkSport, they've already gone early with it, and they've said the decision's already been made. There's obviously, you've seen the thumbnail, you've seen the photograph of which we believe to be Tim Steidten and Graham Potter that are in some sort of conversation. Now, are we putting 2 and 2 together? Look, maybe we are, maybe we're not. I believe, Ben, and I'm sure that a lot of people here, and yourself probably included, probably are of the opinion that his time, if it hasn't already officially come to an end, it's not got long to go.
It seems that way, Rob. I think, look, we had, I think if you analyse it, it's been a very poor start to the season. You know, you could argue, I mean, how many games are we in, Rob? How many games we played?
20 Premier League games, and then we've had 2 games in the League Cup. So 22 matches in competitive football.
Well, 20 league games. If I'm honest, Rob, I'd say we've probably played well played well for the whole game in maybe 2 of those games. I can think that we done well against Newcastle. We done well against Ipswich, which we should have been. You know, the other games that we've actually won, I feel that, you know, we probably are so lucky to win them. Do you know what I mean? On other days, if other teams had their shooting boots on, we probably wouldn't have won those games. And like I'm saying, only thinking of 2 or 3 good games out of 20. That's not a good start to his managerial career. I think, if we're honest, he wouldn't have been anyone's first choice, but when he was here, you kind of tried to get behind him. But for me, Rob, it's the last few games and the capitulation that, you know, the game's gone before half time, and it's just, you know, you lose a bit of hope then, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, were you one of the ones that when he came in, were you pleased when he came in? Were you a little bit dubious? I think that most people, when he was linked with the job as David Moyes' time was coming to an end, was a little bit not sure whether this is the right guy. What was your thoughts on him when he was made a manager?
I mean, to be honest, probably a little bit more positive than most, you know, because I tried to look at his CV in a positive light and say, you know, albeit that his role at Real Madrid and his role as Spain manager didn't go particularly well, I was kind of the opinion to even get them, you know, opportunities in the first place, there's got to be something about the guy. I also then looked at his brief stint at Wolves in the Premier League, which, you know, he done well there. And I was watching an interview with Jamie Carragher saying he thought he could have been up there to be manager of the year. So evening, Dave. Evening, everyone. So it's like anything, Rob. You don't want to just go, well, this guy's he's a loser, and look at it negatively. But maybe I was looking at it with claret and blue spectacles.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Brendan's saying there. I don't sort of celebrate the fact that there's a guy that's lost his job, but I find it very difficult to feel sorry for someone who has patently failed at their job 6 months into a 2-year plus 1 year contract, and he'll get paid 5 million quid for it. So for failing, here's 5 million quid. Now fuck off.
Yeah, yeah.
Really feels. I know he's got the family situation that he had to deal with his father. That's very regrettable. All the rest of it, but ultimately, Ben, Premier League football is a results-orientated business.
It absolutely is, Rob. And I mean, results have been poor, but it does feel a bit of an odd one because we had that little three or four game unbeaten run, didn't we? That who did we play? I think we drew with Bournemouth.
Well, it was we beat Wolves, drew with Bournemouth, drew with Brighton, beat Southampton.
Yeah, so you're thinking that's not bad. You're thinking maybe we're building something here, yeah, and maybe things are slowly turning around. But actually, the performances in those still wasn't great, were they? It was performances, and then we've gone into Liverpool and Man City, which you might argue, well, you're expected to lose anyway. But the fact is, Rob, the Liverpool game was over at half time, and from what I can gather, Liverpool didn't even get out of fucking third gear. If Liverpool really needed to, we could have been done by 10 if they really tried.
100%.
And the Man City game, Rob, Man City have been weak. We can look at the stats and say, well, against Man City, we had more shots than them. Do you know what I mean? But there's something amiss where, and I think Carragher said this, or someone said this, where when we go a goal down, we just fold. There's a lack of togetherness within the side, it seems, to just stay in the game and fight for each other. And I'm sorry, this might divide opinion. I think it's a lack of homegrown players. Lack of homegrown players, a lot of foreign players that they ain't really that fussed. You know what I mean? And I like the idea of having some homegrown English talent in the side that will fight for the badge, because I don't think we've got that many players that are doing that at the moment.
No, I'd agree with you. And I think most people that are old school West Ham fans like you and I and a lot of people in the chat, there is nothing better than seeing a young homegrown academy prospect coming through, breaking into the first team and making it a name for himself. You and I know that player will give that little bit more to the cause, because they've come through, they're invested in all of the infrastructure behind the scenes, the coaching staff, all the rest of it. So they will put in more than, say, a Lucas Paquetá, an Edson Alvarez, a Nicholas Fulton. All of them have their attributes. All of them sort of like can have their good points. And I'm not saying all foreign players are sort of like have that sort of lack of spine. I mean, like take Thomas Souček.
Absolutely.
You want about him as his limitations, but you know, as far as his principles and his characteristics are concerned, you can't go wrong. But he's a little bit of he's the exception. He's not the rule when it comes to foreign players. And I'm not saying that sort of like sort of dismissively, but it's the fact of the matter is, when it's very difficult for Lucas Paquetá when he was growing up on Paquetá Island, he didn't sort of grow up with pictures of Trevor Brooking on his bedroom wall. I can tell you that for nothing.
No, and I think as fans, that's what, where performances we've been lacking, and we haven't really had much to shout about. Ollie Scholes has had a little run around, but I mean, we're digressing from the matter at hand. It seems to me, Rob, Lopetegui, Lopetegui, he's been unlucky in a few of the games. We've we've had a lot of chances and we haven't taken them. But overall, it seems like he's fell out with quite a few players, and it's not working. For whatever reason, it's not working out. And I think if he does go, which seems to be likely, then we've got to make the right appointment.
Well, I mean, the talk is, I mean, like I say, the photograph, it's out there, it's in the public domain. It's not my photograph. I don't own it. It's one that's been used on a number of different YouTube channels as a thumbnail. So it's not mine, and I'm not the first to use it, and I probably won't be the last. But that was definitely Tim Steidten. That is definitely Graham Potter having a chin wag. Was it taken today? Was it taken last week? I have no earthly clue. But there they are. They're in dialogue now. The other thing to say is that it's long been known that Graham Potter is an ex-teammate of Paul Pesce-Salido, who is otherwise known as Mr. Karen Brady. So they've apparently this is how it's all linked together. Apparently, Paul Pesce-Salido and Karen Brady and Graham Potter and Mrs. Potter are all quite pally, and that's how this sort of link has come about. Now, I'm also led to believe that David Sullivan, our esteemed, majority shareholder, he's been a little bit reluctant, but I think even he's got to the point where he's looking clearly at Julen Lopetegui and just going, this is going horribly, horribly wrong, and something needs to change. I mean, for me, our season now hinges on that game at Villa on Friday, because I think if we lose that, then basically at that point our season is now a zombie season from that point on.
Yeah, but I've got to be honest, Rob. I kind of felt it was going to be the case regardless. I felt that with the new manager, lots of new players, it might be one of them seasons where you've got to start it as a rebuilding process, and that's kind of what it's turning into. But it's the nature of the losses, Rob, isn't it? It's the nature of the losses. It's the very good, Lee Hammer.
9 matches that we've lost by a 3-goal margin or greater in 22 matches. I mean, that tells you what you need to know, doesn't it?
Yeah. We fold under the pressure. It doesn't help that there's been bad discipline, which you've said, Rob, you think comes from the manager, because he's had a few 100%. Bookings and sending off. The ill discipline. There's just been players that are so below their capability. Paqueta's the number one culprit. I think Alvarez is another culprit. Yeah. I feel like, obviously, we done an overhaul of the defence, and somehow our defence has probably got worse.
I agree.
We thought, these lads, we're conceding so many goals. Get rid of Zuma, get rid of Agurd, get rid of this one. Bring in all these players, but
that for me is hitting the nail on the head. This is why we're in the problem we're in, because Sullivan has basically appointed someone on the cheap, and now it's the old saying, isn't it, Ben? Buy cheap, buy twice.
Yeah. You're right. The fact is, Potter. If Potter was my number one from the start. He's got experience in English football. He plays good football. The Chelsea job, it didn't work out there. But look, all managers have a flop. There's not many managers that don't have a bad time. I mean, look at Nuno Espirito Santo, right?
Yes.
This is a guy. He done all right at Wolves, didn't do well at Spurs, and now he's gone to Nottingham Forest, and he's got them playing fantastically. So we've got some good players, and with a new manager, a fresh start, and a kick up the arse, But I think a lot of these players have got to look at themselves. Like I say, Alvarez, Paqueta, Kudus to a certain extent, and then everyone defensively. That's the midfield has looked so disjointed and slow and massive gaps. So there's a lot that a new manager needs to come in and change, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, people sort of say about the Chelsea sort of spell. Well, the manager prior to him, Thomas Tuchel, is now the England manager. And okay, yes, he did win a Champions League. I get that, but he wasn't doing too well, which is hence why the trigger got pulled on him before Potter got the gig. And then after he got the trigger pulled on him, I think they replaced him with Frank Lampard. He didn't exactly pull up any trees. And then they replaced him with Pochettino. He only lasted a season. So Chelsea's a little bit of a basket case of a club. And the other thing that also that is something that I understand why people say about Graham Potter. Yes, but the only reason he did any good at Brighton was because of the infrastructure and the setup around him. And then I sort of sit there and go, you do remember he was at Swansea in the Premier League and he actually did quite well for them. People forget that one.
Yeah. And I think, look, he plays a good style of football. I've always rated him, Rob. I just recall watching his teams, thinking, Jesus Christ, that's how to play football. So I'd like to think it is him. I wanted him from day one, and it feels to me that there would have been quite a few jobs that could have gone his way. I feel like he's been waiting for us. I feel like he's been waiting to see how this one panned out with Lopetegui. And if we can get him in, let's get him in. Do you know what I mean? We let's not drag it out. Let's not say one more game and then, 2 or 3 more games. I understand that you want to give a manager a chance. And I've wanted to give Lopetegui a chance. But actually, I think 20 games in Premier League football, and like I say, with less than a handful of good performances, I just feel like we're just waiting and we're waiting in vain, as Bob Marley said.
Yeah. What do you make about the fact that they say that it will be on a 6-month deal? I mean, do you think, again, I sort of I believe that the appointment of Lopetegui in the first instance on a 2-year deal and an option for a third, all the rest of it, and it was a freebie appointment, which is always Sullivan's hallmark. He doesn't get anyone that's currently in a job and pay the compensation. Do you think that the fact that he's now installing his replacement on a 6-month deal is a little bit of a lack of ambition again?
A little bit, Rob, but I think he's thinking he's got burnt with appointing someone on a 2-year deal. I think 6 months is a little bit light. If you think Potter's the right man, which I'm not sure, I think he is, but maybe he doesn't. He's not sure. 6 months does seem a little bit light, I must admit. But we'll have to see what it is. At the minute, Lopetegui's still there, but, I don't think he will be for long.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, like I say, I think it's a shame that it's come to this. And as I say, I do have a degree of sympathy for Lopetegui as and when he is. And as I say, we're sitting here, with obviously this is a live stream. Everybody seems to be on the same page that the chances are that if the trigger has not been pulled on him, and that is a little bit of a point of speculation, shall we say. Some people are saying he's gone already. That's it. It's done. And other people are saying, not quite yet. But until the club it's the old thing, we hear rumors about signing players, for example, but until you see them holding up the shirt, you're never quite sure it's a done deal. But I'm pretty convinced this is pretty much nailed on. Whether do you think Potter will be in charge for the game against Villa, or do you think he'll wait until the Fulham game?
I don't see why you'd wait, Rob. I just think, if the decision's been made, Potter's available. Get the contract done, get rid of Lopetegui if that's what you're going to do. I think that's everything's pointing towards that. If Potter's your man, give him a few days playing with the player, training with the players, so he can get to know them, pick the team. I mean, it's unfortunate he's coming in and Bowen's out, but that's just the nature of football. He's injured, and that gives Somerville a chance. That gives Somerville a chance to stake his claim. And, you know, I'm glad Fulkrug nicked a goal and he's getting fitter by the game. And I think some of his touches looked pretty good. So, you know, he had a good game.
Yeah, massively.
Yeah. So look, he's coming in, you know, he's coming in with pretty much a full bill of health of the squad, and he'll be coming in with an opportunity to get some players in the door.
Talking about players, Ben, in your opinion, who do you think that the appointment of Graham Potter is good news for? And conversely, who do you think it's bad news for if it comes to pass?
It's difficult to say, Rob. Like I say, I think regardless of the Potter appointment, I think Somerville's got a real good opportunity to get a run of games inside with Bowen's injury. You know, we don't want Bowen, our captain, to be injured, but on the flip side, I think Somerville was probably quite unlucky to not been playing. So that's a good opportunity for him. Fulkrug's coming back to fitness. In terms of who it's not a good news for, it's difficult. I think that the two centre halves have got to be questioned a little bit, especially Mavropanos. I mean, he's got a big mistake leading to a goal in him pretty much every game. So I think we need to be looking strongly at a centre half. It's difficult in January. You know, we should have strengthened more in January at the back. In my opinion, we didn't. It's come home to roost. But I feel like the midfield is looking so weak. We've got a lot of players, but none of them are really doing the business. So I think we need to look in centre back and central midfield. They're our two priority positions, and you know, Potter, if he comes in, he's got a big job to do in those areas.
Do you think he might look at, say, a Lewis Orford, or do you think he might even possibly look to end the loan of James Ward-Prowse and reinstate him into the first team?
I think he might. I think he might, Rob. You know, he you know, one thing with Ward-Prowse, he gets around the pitch, and I don't think we have that much. Do you know? I don't think Ward-Prowse is getting too much game time at Nottingham Forest, and I can't really see that. You know, the players that are there in his position. Soler's been doing better. I don't know. Ward-Prowse maybe isn't the answer, but he wasn't the problem either. So Orford, maybe it's always a risk, isn't it? But if Potter's like listening to Mark Noble or whatever, he might give him a chance. But we need to toughen up at the back and in the midfield. And look, I think we've got some good attacking talent. They just need to start being a little bit more clinical. Like I say, we've gone to Man City and had more shots. So, you know, the opportunities were there, but we're just not being clinical in front of goal. And a recipe for disaster. We can't keep it tight at the back.
Daniel's got a question for you, Ben. How can Potter get everyone firing on all cylinders and as a unit? It seems a hard task to do with the players' attitudes and antics.
Well, I don't know, Rob. If I knew the answer to that, I'd be a football manager.
Yeah.
Look, mate. I think sometimes the new manager can galvanise. You know, I think he's a good manager. He's had a bit of a knock at Chelsea. He'll understand. He's experienced. He'll know what worked, what didn't work. So I'm just hopeful that he can go in and get a bit more togetherness. You know, I don't know why it wasn't working. You know, we've got just, like I said on my voice note earlier, Rob, we've just got to stay in the game. If we go a goal down, you know, I think against Liverpool, didn't they? I think their first goal was on like 30 minutes.
Yep.
And then by half, so we stayed in the game for half an hour, had a few little chances. We went 1-0 down. We've then hit the post, but then all of a sudden, by half time, we're 3-0 down and the game's over. It's like, we've just got to have a bit more of a mentality to cling in there, and until we've got an opportunity to get in the game by scoring a goal. But how you do that, I don't know. But a lot of the teams, like Wolves have looked a bit more clever since they got a new manager in. So I'm hopeful that I think Potter was the right man from the start, and I'm hopeful he can come in and rattle a few cages and get us playing a lot better.
Any final thoughts before we knock it on the head, bruv?
Well, yeah, just to say, obviously, it's disappointing. Been a poor start to the season. We've got to be careful not to get dragged into a relegation battle, Rob. I mean, people think, and there are worse teams than us, but it doesn't take a lot, to be all of a sudden you're in the relegation fight. So we don't want to go into that. So I think get Potter in, give him a bit of backing in January, and pull away. Hopefully, Villa's a very tough game on Friday. But if we can, who knows, if we can win that, stay in the FA Cup, then at least we can have a good start, good finish to the season.
Absolutely. Right. Well, I think that's where we'll knock it on the head. Guys, if you're new around here, don't forget to click subscribe and hit the bell notification. Even if you're not and you are an existing subscriber, either way, please don't forget to put a thumbs up on this stream. It all helps the channel out tremendously. Takes a couple of seconds of your time. It doesn't cost you a copper coin, so what's not to like? Please don't forget also to give your support to the Iron Supporting Food Banks charity. Come on, you Irons. We'll see you next time.
Iron Supporting Food Banks collects food and cash donations for needy families in Newham Borough and beyond. Please consider making a donation via their Just Giving page, the link for which you will find in the description section of this stream. Come on, you Irons.